Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Fantasy Football Sports Minds. It's your boy MJG, Manny here, and I'm live with Joe, the Birdman. Joe, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Manny. I had another great week for fantasy, and I'm pumped up going into this next week. I've got some stacked lineups this weekend, and I'm just really looking forward to Sunday. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. I guess by the time we post that, it'll be tonight, Thursday. We got a great week of football lined up.
Oh yeah, a lot of really great lineups. Or a lot of great matchups. I'm pretty excited for it. I know I definitely have some great weeks as well. I had an off week. Of course, I took L's across the board in all three of my leagues. But that happens, right?
Yeah.
When you get all your wins early, I was on like 7-8 game win streak in two of those. So, it was about time that, Goliath was toppled over by I think the guy that had one win in the league beat me in one of the leagues.
That's how it happens sometimes. Yeah.
Even a blind squirrel gets a nut every once in a while, so
I think I'm officially out in one of your leagues. If not this week, for one more loss, I'm officially out. But I think I'm already there. It's like, the playoff percentage might say like 1%, but
yeah, it's slim. But don't worry, I'm right there. I'm on the verge too. I'm 4-6. I'm knocking on the back door. I gotta go on a run. I'm knocking on heaven's door. 4-6. There's 4 games left before the playoffs. So I got to go win 3 out of 4 to get in there because I think 3rd through 7th place, everybody is 6-4. So I mean,
that's so cool when that happens, man.
To get in there. That means there's 2 spots up for grabs. 2 spots up for grabs at least for fantasy football playoffs. So that's gonna be great.
Yeah, man, I love that when the competition is real tight like that. Like I got one league where no one's out yet, and that's just fun. Yeah. And everyone's still making moves, making trades, looking at the deadline. It's awesome.
Yeah, I just made a trade today. I was like, man, Trevor Lawrence has really been shit in the bed for me, man. I was like, I can't really trust this guy. I was like, I had to bench him last week, and sure enough, he was negative. And the guy I picked up, Will Levis, did nothing either. So I'm like, man, there's nothing on the waiver wire. I was looking at people's bench. I was able to trade George Pickens for Josh Dobbs. I was like, I'll take it.
That's a great trade.
I was like, Josh Dobbs is a better streamer right now than Trevor Lawrence at the moment. Trevor Lawrence has a really rough schedule coming up the next few games. So I might have some soft matchups afterwards, but I was like, Tennessee's a divisional game, I can see a heavy dose of Travis Etienne, very low Trevor Lawrence love. So I don't see it as a very good fantasy season for him. So I might as well ride the hot hand. So it was a low risk, high reward move for me in doing that.
Yeah, he hasn't been the same this year. And Pickens fell off the last few weeks. So it's better to trade him now. And, if he continues down that path again, and he's got a tough matchup this week. So if he continues down that path, then you're not going to be able to get Dobbs next week. So, if he has another boom week and another down week, you never know.
Yeah, the guy has Mahomes anyway. So he's like, I'm trying to get something, while I still, all people are still in the playoffs. But speaking of in and outs, right, we're talking about some injuries here. Some good players being out. Surprise here. T. Higgins is out. I'm sure most people aren't surprised. He's probably only played a handful of games this season. He's only produced a handful as well. Deshaun Watson, of course, hairline fracture in his shoulders or some other injury. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course. He's out for the season. He's on IR, so he's going to be gone for a while. We have some notable players coming back. Khalil Herbert is coming back. And those of you that are asking for a controversy in Chicago, the controversy already happened, ladies and gentlemen. That happened week 1 when they started Khalil Herbert and they healthy scratch Dante Foreman. And they had about 4 games after that where they didn't even play him.
Yeah.
He didn't get a single touch. And if you've seen him play the last few games, he looks exactly like he did last year in Carolina. He could handle the workload. He could catch passes. He could block out of the backfield. I mean, the guy's he's clearly better than Herbert.
And the thing is, I counted him out after the first week. I did a player profile on Roschon Johnson. I said, hey, the carries are almost 50-50. It was like 60-40 with Khalil Herbert and Roschon. It was really close, but Roschon Johnson scored a touchdown week 1. I thought it was going to be a committee and that they weren't even going to consider Donta Foreman. And he didn't play the first 5 weeks. And then Herbert goes down, then Roschon goes down, and then he stepped up in a big way, and he has just been kicking ass. And if it bothers me when I see some ESPN projections that have Donta Foreman projected at 5 and Khalil Herbert projected at 12. Khalil Herbert's probably going to take over as a starting role, but not this week, probably not even next week. It's going to take some time for him to ease back in. And I got excited in one league. I dropped Donta Foreman, thinking Roschon was going to be the guy until Khalil Herbert came back, and you were just talking about that. And, there was another league where I dropped him where I'm doing very well, and I have plenty of running backs. But it still hurts when you see, man, Donta Foreman put up double digits, no problem again, and I dropped him. So don't drop him. Keep him on your roster until you know what's going on over there.
Well, I do want to shed some insight on that. So Chicago actually ended up firing their running backs coach. He had that controversy. I think he was the one that resigned, or he got fired or whatever a few weeks ago. So I obviously they were saying he wasn't living up to the team, expectation about whatever he was supposed to do. It was all hush hush. So he was clearly doing something the team didn't agree with. But I also think it also had to do with performance, right? Like, how do you bury this guy on a depth chart like Foreman? They probably realized, hey, we got our ass handed to us all these games. All we had to do is ride Foreman for these games, because all they did was hype up Rashawn Johnson all season. Yes, he has all the talent in the world, but clearly he wasn't ready. The game's too fast for him. It's kind of like when we saw Jahmyr Gibbs in the beginning, like, he was trying to cut too early. He wasn't being patient. He wasn't hitting the holes, waiting for them to develop. So, unfortunately, he wasn't able to get, the yardage he needs. And I think it's going to be a year or two before he develops. But if you look at Khalil Herbert's game, I mean, he's been okay. But, I mean, when I watch his tape, nothing really stands out to me like he's really great at something, right? Versus Donta Foreman, he passes the eye test. A guy could get in between the tackles. He's a tough runner. He protects the ball. He doesn't fumble a lot. And he can actually catch the ball out of the backfield. So to me, if I'm a team, I'm looking at it like, how the hell did we have this guy buried on our depth chart? And Herbert's on a contract year, so you clearly realize, hey, Herbert's not the guy. He's never going to be the guy. He had a couple of flashes over the years, but he's never going to be that superstar. You just draft the running back and move on. As a matter of fact, you already drafted him in Rashawn. So
yeah, I know, and yeah, that's why they drafted Roschon. He's a player that's more like Herbert, in my opinion. And, the thing is, Donta Foreman had an awesome year last year too. It's when McCaffrey was traded, Foreman stepped up and delivered. He almost had 1,000 rushing yards. And I think that, he had a 1-year contract. Then he went over to Chicago. I think he's on another 1-year contract. But the thing is, he's proven that he can be that guy. He can be an RB1 on both teams. He did it. And these aren't great teams, so he's coming to play. He's a big dude too, man. He's a truck. He's a durable running back. He's a 3-down back. So I think it would be silly for them to switch gears now.
I think the move for obviously this is off topic, but talking about Donta Foreman, that's 2 years in a row, like you said, 1-year contracts. I mean, I could see this guy next year. This is his last payday. I don't see him getting a big contract because, unfortunately, they have owners and management have devalued the running back position to the point where there's plenty of guys that were on active rosters last year that are just sitting as free agents right now. I mean, look at Darrell Henderson. Like, the Rams signed him, and all of a sudden he's a fan RB10. So, like, the RB position is what it used to. So Rashawn will probably get a 2-year deal next year, but I can see him actually finally being like, you know what, I'm going to go to a contender. If I'm going to get bottom dollar money, I'm going to go somewhere where I'm going to be appreciated. And I wouldn't be surprised you could end up somewhere like Philly where they have a need for a bruiser back, and they're like, hey, we'll give you 2 years, $4 million, $6 million, and you get the guaranteed workload. Because at the end of the day, there's certain teams that have that need.
Yeah. And he is a bruiser. Foreman is a bruiser.
Speaking of bruisers, Dameon Pierce is coming back. And I know you and I talked about that off camera, of course. But obviously, Devin Singletary monster game last week. He was obviously a great play for anybody. He was obviously you talked about ESPN projections. He was projected like 5 points, even with the starting role in a weak rush defense he was going against, and he scored over 20. So great game. And I think what that does is it devalues Dameon Pierce. It fades him, and now it's a committee. And yes, Dameon may start, but I think you see Devin Singletary getting a lot more of those crucial touches, especially like the goal line touches, because he has proven to be able to get those yards in between. And you've seen him throw a touchdown maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago on the goal line. He scores in between the tackles, so I think he's their more efficient back. So you can see him in a lot more goal line touches. So he's probably the more valuable of the two running backs.
I totally agree. He's been a lot more efficient. He's looked a lot better. Dameon Pierce, I was so high on him last year, and he did have a good year last year, but he hasn't done anything this year. It's been, in my opinion, it's been a lot easier to watch Singletary than Pierce. So I'm pretty sure that that's going to be at a minimum a committee now. But they might even start leaning on Singletary. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely be a committee. I agree with that. But you're going to get more points out of Singletary, though, unfortunately. And much like yourself, I was high on Dameon Pierce going into this year. Adam Gray has like a 4th or 5th rounder in a 12-man league. You know, obviously, people were reaching for him 3rd or 4th. I couldn't justify the reach. You know, the only player I did reach on this year, I will admit I reached on 2 players. That was Jahmyr Gibbs, you know, which it took him a little while, but now he's looking like, you know, the 2nd, 3rd round projection, right? That we thought he'd be RB2.
I reached for him in a couple leagues too. And, you know, I knew I had to reach for him in one of your leagues to snatch him so you couldn't get him. But I reached for him in a few leagues.
And I almost wish that, you know, Steelers have a really bad, horrible offensive game so they could fire Matt Canada and free them from that and hire like Byron Leftwich. Like that would be like the greatest thing for that franchise, to be able to have somebody that could design plays for your superstars. That would be amazing.
It's so bizarre that we have a the Steelers have a record of 6-3. You know,
it's that defense, brother. TJ Watt's a monster, man. Hall of Famer.
We'll see. Oh, without a doubt. So another injury that I don't know exactly what's going on yet, but Michael Thomas, something happened to his knee, and I read that it's serious, but he's still listed as questionable. You know, he's not out or doubtful or anything. But if he's out for a few weeks, Rashid Shaheed, he's on a bye this week. You can grab him because no one will be paying attention, and he might be, you know, a really good play for the next few weeks.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Michael Thomas, fairly significant. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to say to have as questionable, and they say fairly significant knee injury.
No, I know what it is. Michael Thomas doesn't want to play with Jameis Winston. That's exactly what it is. You watched that game, man. Jameis started off high, and then he threw 2 picks to end the game.
Dude, I was looking at Rashid Shaheed's targets. He had 9 targets and 3 catches. I mean, damn. You know,
man, like Jameis he's reckless, man. I see, like it's hilarious.
Yeah, he always has been. He's just slinging the ball. It's fun sometimes, but damn.
Took Tampa Bay fans a long time to realize that I'm here in Florida, so like I've been talking to Tampa Bay fans for many years, and I was like, man, you guys were delusional,
dude.
And now they finally admit it.
he had some great weeks for fantasy too, though, where you'd start him and you'd be like, whoa, big fucking weeks. Yeah.
But if you're in leagues like mine, where you get penalized for your turnovers, and you're not seeing so many points, and I love that because you can have a quarterback throw for 5 touchdowns. You get 5 picks, that's 10 points off your scored points. So that can definitely hurt you. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. Any free agents you recommend here, pickups for the week? Everything's pretty much picked clean.
Yeah, I just think that, you know, a sneaky ad, if he's available, which there's a good chance he is, Rashid Shaheed. I know you had to trade for Dobbs, but there's a chance Dobbs is available, and I think he's going to be last 3 weeks he's been great. Last 2 weeks on Minnesota's looked great. And I'm not as down on Addison, Hawkinson, and Justin Jefferson anymore. I think they could be successful. And obviously Minnesota has faith in Dobbs if they're bringing him onto the team and they're trying to, win football games. They're not just folding. So that's cool. That's good to see.
You think they got a quarterback controversy? Do you pay Kirk Cousins $200 million, or do you pay Josh Dobbs the $40 million for the
Mhm.
next 2 years and get similar results? Right? Like,
It's
I mean, as
possible.
a
Yeah.
matter of fact, he won. I mean, I guess the games he won weren't really against tough teams, but they were projected to lose. So, in my opinion, if you win games you're projected to lose in the NFL, there's no easy game. So,
Oh,
that should
definitely
show
not.
something about his skill level, right?
Absolutely. And then Ty Chandler is now the running back for the Vikings. So um, I don't think they had him involved at all in the passing game, but he had like double-digit carries last week. I don't think he was very efficient. I didn't look at his stats, but watching it, he didn't look spectacular. But you might as well pick him up. If you got space on your bench and you just want to see what happens over the next couple weeks, because Alexander Madison's going to be out this week, and this week at a minimum, maybe next week too. You never know. Roshan Johnson was out for like 3 or 4 weeks with a concussion or something. 3 weeks.
Yeah. And Noah Ganu's the fourth string running back. He's I guess he's more their pass catching back. He was supposed to be the third guy on the depth chart in front of Ty Chandler coming into the season. He just didn't get anything. Kenan Naganu,
Mm-hmm.
no Ganu. But
Yeah.
regardless, but yeah, I wouldn't put a lot of stock into those guys. But yeah, you're right. Justin Jefferson coming back, you could see that as a really pass heavy and a really good offense. But
And
yeah,
then
without further ado, let's. Oh,
I
go
just
ahead.
got sorry. I was going to mention one more that it's a total long shot, but maybe worth a stash is Keaton Mitchell. I might even have his name
Oh,
wrong. The Baltimore running back that's
yeah.
last couple weeks has been very, very efficient with limited
Mhm.
touches. So if you're in a position where you only have 2 running backs and you just want to stash a guy to see what happens, he's worth a stash. Gus Edwards is probably the guy. Baltimore is a team that you can never trust as far as what's going on with the backfield, but I think he's worth an ad if you have someone like that's just kind of lingering at the end of your bench and you're like, why am I holding on to this guy? I might as well fill that spot with him. Put Keaton Mitchell on there or whatever his name is, see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. He could be a good flex for sure, especially over there.
And without further
So
ado, let's get to
let's go
our
ahead and
hot matchups of
hot
the week.
matchup. What's going on, big ballers? Now it's getting hot in here. It's time for your hot matchup of the week over here. Joe, what do you have for your first hot matchup here?
My first hot matchup, let me check. And by the way, I just want to say last week, Lions versus the Chargers, that hot matchup hit big time. 79 total points. All the guys we expect to have big days certainly did. But my first hot matchup,
Fun game.
really fun game, is the Bengals versus the Ravens. Divisional matchup, 2 teams that have been smoking on offense. Well, actually, I shouldn't say. Ravens have been doing very well, but their offense has been a little shaky. But I think this is a bounce back week for Lamar and Mark Andrews. And I just think with the Bengals, you've got Jamar Chase and Burrow, who's back, looking great. Mixon may have a hard time against the run. But altogether, you're looking at a divisional matchup with 2 teams that are going to be playing their absolute best.
That could be a slugfest.
It will be a slugfest. And if the Ravens have been causing a lot of turnovers and their high-powered defense, if they can just create more turnovers, that's why the game I called that was going to be a cold call turned into a hot matchup because you had 2 turnovers from both sides, and no one expected the Browns to play as well as they did. But regardless, you're talking about a defense that can, just create turnovers. And then if the Bengals are playing from behind, you've got Burrow throwing to Jamar Chase. Mixon, I don't think will have a great game, but I feel like collectively you're going to see a lot of points. Lamar's going to have to bounce back. If he doesn't bounce back, it's a little concerning for fantasy owners at least. But you got two good teams, two great offenses in a divisional matchup, and yeah, I think it's just going to be a high-powered game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I agree with you because Joe Burrow just, man, got shut down last game. It was an ugly game for him. I mean, they scored 27 points, but it was, I mean, Texans really showed out that game. It wasn't the
Yeah.
Bengals. The Bengals had a rough game at home. So Burrow is all about that energy. They want to prove that they belong. They're 5-4, so they're gonna have to shoot it out. The Ravens are, I think they are 6 or they're 7. Let me check their record right now. Ravens are 7-3. So actually, I could see the Bengals taking that one just to upset them because the Ravens would be 7-4, Bengals would be 6-4. But they're gonna have to outscore the Ravens to win this, and the only way to outscore them is Burrow's gonna have to get that ball out quick because Ravens are gonna be sending that house on them. So that's why you could. It's going to be knockout blows, a lot of Jamar Chase, a lot of obviously Lamar Jackson, right? Because I think that Hendrickson and, Sam Hubbard are great DNs for Cincinnati, but they're not really known for being light-footed, right? So I could see Lamar running all over that. So it's going to be a good matchup. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to, one of those freak games from Lamar. I really have a hard time saying who's going to win, but I'm gonna go with Baltimore just so we can disagree and come back to it next week. But I think Lamar is going to,
You're wrong.
He will be able to run on them a lot better than he has in the last couple of weeks, and Mark Andrews is going to come out pissed off too. Again, it's a divisional game, so expect them to just be ready to go. What about you? What's your first hot matchup?
It was really hard to think about this. I had to think about it. I was like, what's going to be the best game of the week? And it's none other than the Super Bowl matchup between yours truly, the Philadelphia Eagles, best team in the NFC, going up against the best team in the AFC. I don't care what Colin Cowturd says on his show about turnovers, because at the end of the day, winning football games is yes, it is about winning the turnover battle. That's the most cliche motto you could say about anybody, but if in today's NFL, it's about outscoring the other person, because this is an offensive league. The rule changes made sure that, and you could have a horrible defense and beat the other team. Doesn't mean that that's sustainable throughout the playoffs. Because when you get to the playoffs, you got to actually dig in. I think the Eagles eventually are going to find their identity because of injuries. But that ain't going to be today, bud, or tomorrow or this weekend. So that's going to be a shootout. Kelsey's all in love. He has to impress all the Swifties. And his girlfriend is an Eagles fan, and she betrayed the green. She's going to be wearing Chiefs gear. So she's not a true Eagles fan. You can't be an Eagles fan, and then just because your boyfriend plays for the Chiefs, you got to do what Mama Kelsey does. You got to have the half Eagles, half Chiefs.
Dude, why didn't she do the half? That's a good call. Why wouldn't she just go half and half?
Mama Kelsey has somebody that does that. You have no excuse for that. And then you get brownie points with Mama Kelsey and the whole family.
So true.
And you show true loyalty. But you know what? She had to go against Eagles fans.
Man, they could have even made a commercial out of that. If she got half and half, they could have had
won over Philly.
Man,
now she pissed Philly off. So now they're gonna feel that red and yellow confetti, man. Philly's feeling it. Everybody from Kansas City was in the spotlight. Philly was not, because they're focused. They got bulletin board material. They want revenge, and people are gonna say, "Hey, it's just a regular season. It don't matter." Chiefs, come into playoffs. I don't even to be honest. I want to see how they show up tomorrow. I'm sure they're going to put up points, but and their defense is better than last year. I will be honest, their defense is better than ours.
Definitely.
But their offense doesn't show up. If their offense doesn't show up, If Kelsey doesn't show up, then they're gonna have a long day. So they're gonna have to keep passing to Kelsey, and Pacheco ain't gonna have a good day. Let me just tell you that right now. Not against number one rush defense.
Yeah, that's the thing is like the Chiefs defense has looked much better this year. But the Philly defense is still rock solid. And again, as you were just saying, they're still going to be able to get past that. I mean, Hurts and AJ Brown have been fantastic. And on top of that, you've got Devonta Smith, and then you've got Swift. Swift has been playing great too. So I just expect this game, with as many options on either side of the field. What's funny though is the Chiefs offense has been a little streaky. Kelsey hasn't been the same guy this year, and I know he's not technically 100%, but
he's distracted.
Yeah, they've never really had a wide receiver core since Tyreek left, but I think Rashee Rice is going to have a great game. I expect this to be his best game so far this season. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. Huh? I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I got more to add to that. Obviously, you're right. Like Eagles offense, is definitely AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts connection is my favorite. Did you accept that trade, by the way?
It's still in my inbox. I'm
thinking he didn't send it over?
He sent it to me.
You need to accept it, and you need to not think any more about it.
No. The side I would have is the side you. So I have Gibbs and AJ Brown, and he wants Gibbs and AJ Brown, and he's willing to trade.
Oh, no, never mind. Keep Gibbs and AJ Brown. Sorry, I thought you were being offered. Absolutely not. No, that's the higher upside. Now I see why he wants that trade. Excuse me. So I misread that message then.
And yeah, so just for the viewers, I have Jahmyr Gibbs and AJ Brown. I was offered Stephon Diggs and Alvin Kamara for Jahmyr Gibbs and AJ Brown. It's still sitting in my inbox right now. I'm thinking about it, but I mean, it's almost like an even wash. It's almost like, what are you doing this trade for? Just to trade? But I think there's a little bit more stability and as you said, Manny, upside with Jahmyr Gibbs and AJ Brown. And it's hard to trade those guys when you see them firing on all cylinders. On both of them are on a high-powered offense, whereas Alvin Kamara and Stephon Diggs, I don't know what's going on with Buffalo right now, but I don't think Stephon Diggs is going to be in a slump. I think this week he's going to bounce back in a huge way. I expect a huge game from Josh Allen and from Diggs, but Alvin Kamara is on a bye this week. I think Diggs is on a bye in like 2 or 3 weeks. I'm not even concerned about the bye because I'm in first place in that league, but I agree with you. I think there's a little bit more stability and upside just based on what we've seen so far from AJ Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs. So I'm going to stick with him. I'm not accepting the trade.
Yeah. And also strength of schedule. Eagles have this next 3 games are going to be tough. It's Niners, Bills, Chiefs next 3 games, and the Cowboys 4th game. So some good teams, and the rest after that are cupcake teams for the playoff schedule. So, I'd definitely rather take that than an inconsistent Saints offense or struggling Bills offense, or like new offensive coordinator. Could be like the Raiders, right? And Antonio Pierce, all of a sudden they're this revamped, motivated team. But you just fired the guy that Josh Allen endorsed. Is there trouble in paradise? Diggs' brothers, like, hey, get my brother out of there. Trevon Diggs is stirring drama.
I almost accepted the trade just because I love Stephon Diggs so much. I love the way he is towards the media and, how he kind of disrespects the spotlight. I just love that about him so much that I want him on my team.
He doesn't want it.
I know.
Yeah, he doesn't want all that. He's not a flashy dude.
I know.
They try to portray him as like this bad guy or this anti-hero. He's a very likable guy. He gives back to his community. He doesn't cause problems or drama. He takes care of his family, his own. And when you see the media give him, and he handled the situation right. Like when he left Minnesota, people say he was immature. he learned from that. He grew from that. He had problems with Josh Allen, like the situation in the offseason with the Bills offense because they were supposed to get better, and he took a pay cut or something,
I mean,
or
he
he
was a
took that
kid,
he
I mean,
restructured. Well, he's 20-something, but he
no, I'm saying he
restructured his
was like,
contract to help them. Yeah, what I was saying is that he restructured his contract so they could go ahead and add more talent to the team, and instead of doing that, they ended up spending it elsewhere. I can't recall what it is exactly that Buffalo did, but he definitely wasn't happy. That's why Diggs had the whole dilemma and the whole issue with Buffalo coming in. So but Trevon Diggs, what he said that Josh Allen was nothing till my brother got there. And I mean, he was right because everybody was talking about Josh Allen's going to have that breakout. What did they do? They followed the Philly model. We went and got A.J. Brown for Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. What they do, they got one of the best wide receivers in the game, and Stephon Diggs. And man, that guy, like when he catches the ball, yards after the catch is amazing. Because like they'll arm tackle him, and he'll like keep driving his feet and just run for a touchdown. Like the dude's amazing.
God,
It's
man,
awesome.
now you're making me want to accept this trade.
No, but I wouldn't take that trade though. He's amazing, but Josh Allen's gonna have a rough day or a rough schedule, man. It's
Yeah,
a
I
lot
mean,
of
I'm not
inconsistencies there.
really worried about either one of them, but I understand what you're saying. So, my second hot matchup of the week is the Rams versus the Seahawks. And there's a lot of uncertainty with the Rams right now. Kyron Williams is going to be out again. I think he's back in like 2 weeks. But the Seahawks have looked better. And if Stafford's back, he's going to have Puka and he's going to have Cup. So I feel like this game is just going to be, again, another divisional matchup. And there's going to be a lot of throwing back and forth between both teams. And, you got Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf bounced back, and they looked great last week. I expect him to continue that for the rest of the season. And, yeah, I mean, really, when it comes to these divisional matchups where the offense outweighs the defense, you can just expect fireworks. And that's what I'm expecting this time around as well.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be a good game. A lot to watch here. Seahawks Rams. Rams are coming off a bye week too. Seahawks finally they won that game last week. It was a close one. It was a shootout to the fourth quarter, and they won it from behind. So they have some good momentum. So I could see them translating over. Kenneth Walker's had some slow games, so maybe they get him involved early. And the Rams coming off a bye week. I don't know if they have Matt Stafford coming back, but healthy Puka Nakua, Cooper Cup, that should help out. But
Stafford is
yeah,
supposed to
definitely be a good
play.
game.
That's what they're saying
Oh, he
now,
is.
at least. And the thing is,
Excellent.
like Gino, I know it's hard to trust Gino, but I feel like you can trust DK if you got him, play him. Obviously, I mean, it's not like you wouldn't play him anyway. Lockett's going to be probably. I think in this game specifically, Lockett is a good play. He's been a little up and down, but you should be confident starting him this week. And Kenneth Walker. The Rams don't really have a great run defense, so I think he's going to score a touchdown too. I just think there's going to be points across the board from both teams. Where they come from, it's hard to say, but I'd be playing if you've got Puka, if you've got Cup, I'd play him. If you got Kenneth Walker, Lockett, or DK, play them too.
Definitely.
And what's your second hot matchup, Manny?
For me, I went ahead and went with the Raiders versus the Dolphins. Just because the Dolphins are coming off a bye week, so they're fresh. They have to, stop a resurgent Raiders team. Raiders are on a 2-game win streak ever since they fired their coach, Josh McDaniels, a dumpster fire. He was worse than John Gruden as far as like the mess that they got themselves into because they're paying him for the next 5 years. I know they try to paint this sympathy picture for him because he got fired on Halloween, right? So I guess the owner Mark Davis called Josh McDaniels, called him and fired him. And then what Josh McDaniels did is he called his family in on Halloween And he told him that he got fired. And he's like, "You ruined my kid's Halloween." I'm like, "Why didn't you just like take your kids trick or treating and just tell them the next day after they're like done with candy? Like,
Yeah,
why did you
dude.
have to screw up everybody's night?" Oh yeah, but I forgot that I'm under contract for 5 years and they have to pay me $5 million, $7 million a year. So hey, I got fired, guys, but I still have a severance
I
of
know,
$7 million
man.
a year.
Like he's Charlie Bucket's dad coming home from the chocolate factory. Like I got fired, or from the toothpaste factory. I got fired.
Nah, he's like freaking Will Smith off Pursuit of Happiness over here. Like,
Yeah, I know.
oh my god, guys, like you feel bad for me. Like the dude's a total weirdo,
Yeah, like
man.
you got five
But
dollars in your pocket, man.
yeah, like sorry, bro. Nobody feels bad for you. You had you know, you definitely did good for yourself. You might have to be you could be an offensive coordinator somewhere. You're just not a head coach. You're not a manager of people. Like I think a head coach has to be relatable to people. But regardless, that's Raiders versus Dolphins. Like I said, Raiders are popping up. Josh Jacobs being used. Devontae Adams finally had a solid game last week. I think gone are the days where you're going to see 30, 40-point games from Devontae Adams. But Dolphins like to beat up on weak teams, so expect it to be like a 50-point score from
What do
their
you
side.
What do you think about Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams
I
specifically
mean,
with this game?
I would probably if we're looking at like who would I rather start. I mean, if I had the choice between the two, obviously, like I would go Devontae Adams. But if we're talking about like daily fantasy, like as far as price point, I think they both might be too expensive for their price point. I
Hmm.
don't know. I haven't taken a look at it, but like I know
Yeah,
that
me
they've
either.
had both of them overpriced. Like Jacoby Myers is almost like 1,000 or like 1,500 cheaper than Devontae, and I'm like, for a possibility of not having a role. Like his role was big with McDaniels there. It's been a different role
It's
since
strange. It's
Pierce
really
deserves
hard to
more
tell what's
balance.
going on, what to expect.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I think overall you could get a solid flex, but you're not going to get those, wide receiver one numbers or five numbers you were getting from him early on in the season. You're just going to have to, I would rather obviously start Devontae over him if I had both of them on my week, my season long fantasy team.
Yeah. I mean, I figured that much, and I mean, Devontae got a ton of targets last week. I think he had 13 targets, and
Yeah, eight
I'm not
catches. Yep.
sure. I don't know. I'm not sure what Jacoby got, but I'm just wondering if that's gonna like change each week or if it's just gonna be, steady, kind of like what you got going over with the Jets right now. You got Wilson to Wilson, the Wilson duo, where it's just like 10 to 15 targets to Garrett Wilson every week. but they're
Yeah,
not
that's it.
they're not the best passes, but he's going to
They're
get the
off target.
volume. It could be like that with Devontae.
Well, I think it's going to be Devontae because they're paying him so much money. They got to keep him happy because they can't just get
Mm-hmm.
out of that contract, right? And if they don't keep him happy, they lose all leverage. As soon as a player starts demanding a trade, teams could get him for cheap.
Yeah,
And if you look, he made a comparison 2 weeks ago. He said, "I want, I see Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams being like the '90s Cowboys, Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin, right?"
right.
Weird analogy, him being a Giants player, and I guess he's from I don't know where he grew up, but maybe he's a Cowboys fan. I'm not sure, but that was a weird analogy. But anyway, so that tells you that he's going to probably lean heavily towards Devontae. Trying to go for that duo. And if we are looking up Jacoby Myers, he had I looked up his stats for
Last three
last week.
weeks have been
Obviously, they're
bad.
not.
Last 3 weeks have been really
Yeah,
bad for
it's
him.
been he last week he had two targets, 21 yards. So, he's taking a back seat, which he should have. Like the fact that he had all that, like people, if you didn't sell high on Jacoby Myers, by the time they fired McDaniels, you missed your shot. Because pretty much that
Yeah, you're not going to
weirdo
get the
had him.
value now. Like now you got to just hope he bounces back.
Yeah, like look at freaking Devontae Adams, for example. He has 57 receptions for the season, 98 targets, and we're only 10 games into the season. And that's considering the fact that the Raiders, well, they haven't had a bye week yet, but 10 games in, he's had pretty much 10 targets a game. And last week, you're right, he had 13 receptions. He only had, 13 targets and 6 receptions. So they're going to feature him a little bit more, but you could tell they're going to lean more heavily on the run again. So if you have Josh
Yeah.
Jacobs, his stock has taken a temporary boost as well.
Oh yeah.
What about you? What's your next matchup for the week here?
Well, we're going to the cold calls now. So let's jump in the refrigerator. what's what's that line for what's that line from Tropic Thunder? Who left the fridge open?
I can't remember. It's been so long. I love that movie. I can't quote it if I wanted to. I actually depressed myself today, man. I was like, man, I used to love this movie when I was a kid. Let me rewatch the whole thing because I don't remember if I watched this. I rewatched Saving Private Ryan,
Oh
and I
man.
forgot that they kill everybody in that movie.
Oh
And I'm
dude,
like,
it's one of the best movies ever, but yeah, it's so sad.
yeah, it's a good movie, and it paints the picture of obviously like completely off target a topic here. But I was like, man, like that just really depressed me, man. That was sad.
It's really
Good
sad.
movie,
Yeah,
touching,
it's
but
a
riveting.
great movie, and
Yeah,
yeah, everyone dies. Yeah, I mean, I remember, you know, Barry Pepper was the sniper, and when they took him out,
yeah.
oh man,
In the
because
tower,
you
yeah,
just
he was one of my
loved him.
favorites.
He was such a
Yeah,
badass in that movie.
yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. But yeah, what's cold calls? Who's starting it off over here? You want to start us off with the
Yeah,
cold call
I'll
this week?
start us off. I'll start it off. Who left the fridge open? It's time for the cold call of the week. And my first cold call is the Steelers. Actually, we only do one. I'm sorry. My cold call is the Steelers versus the Browns. Both teams are somehow 6-3, but if you've been watching either team play, it's pretty hard to understand. There's nobody on either team that I would start with confidence. Deshaun Watson now out for the season. I forget the guy's name that's going to be starting in place of him, but you're not playing him. You're not going to play Amari Cooper, or if you are, it's because you have no other option. I wouldn't start Pickens. I wouldn't start Deontay Johnson. I don't I don't know what happened to those guys last week, but that was brutal. The Steelers are going to lean on the run. You know, Jalen Warren and Najee Harris have actually looked really good the last couple weeks, but now they're going against the Browns, and that's going to be tough sledding for both of those guys. Um, yeah, and like who you playing on Cleveland? I guess you're going to play Jerome Ford, and I guess if you really, really are scrapping, you'll play Kareem Hunt. But there's no one on either side of the football that I'd be starting with a smile on my face like, yeah, they're going to eat today. No, they're not. They're going to probably be scrapping.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Jerome Ford is the only one that I have some shred of confidence in on the Cleveland side. That's it. The quarterback's Dorian Green Thompson or something like that from UCLA. I don't know exactly his name, so I could be wrong on that. But
He
I know
did
it's
have like a
something
three
Thompson.
three names though. A
Yeah,
name with
I know
three
it's
names.
Dorian Thompson or some Green Thompson. I don't know, but yeah. As far as on the other side, I definitely Steelers side. You're right. There's been a decline. That's what I was saying. You know, they need a new offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh because that's just a mess. You have all that talent, you can't get them the ball. You're running the ball like they're winning games, but they're not taking shots. They're relying on defense way too much, and unfortunately, when it comes to like football games, you can't let the defense bail you out all the time. You got to take shots. You got to make plays. And if you don't give your team the chance to do that, you're not going to be in a position to do that. So that's
And these
how
games
it
have
is.
been so difficult to watch. It's so nerve-wracking. And it's never like, all right, yeah, we're starting off great. We're gonna, knock them out early. Never. It's always going to the end, and you're like
Struggle bus.
swearing at the TV screen, wondering what the hell's going on, and then somehow pull off a win. But yeah, 6-3, shocking from both teams. It's also another divisional matchup, so they're going to play real hard, but it's going to be a very defensive battle. It has to be. I don't see how it couldn't be. And I said this when the Browns played the Ravens, and it ended up being 64 points. But still,
Yeah.
this is different. The Ravens have a very high-powered offense. If there's some turnovers close to the goal line, All right. It could be a high scoring game. Start the Steelers defense. If you can grab the Steelers defense, put them in and play them with confidence, probably play the Browns defense with confidence. Yeah, definitely start the Browns, start the Steelers, but do not start their offensive players. And what
Yeah.
about you? What's your cold matchup this week, Manny?
Um. Yeah, cold matchup. I definitely went the Giants versus Commanders. I know I've done a lot of cold matchups with the Giants. They're just a mess, man.
It's
I
okay.
mean,
I
I get a
understand.
close up. They're a divisional opponent. I get to see a lot of, you know, updates for the Giants, and they're a very hard team to watch. They don't have any direction. They don't have any identity. Teams just game plan for stopping Saquon Barkley. You have Saquon. If you haven't, unfortunately, if you haven't sold high on him, you can't really. You could still probably get something back for him, but I would suggest selling high on him. He's one of the few players that still has value just on his name, and he has a workload. But maybe the schedule has a couple good games in there for the playoffs or not. But it's just, to me, I think that you could do a little bit better as far as that team. It's just a very tough team to watch. I think obviously Commanders could score, but also it's divisional and the Giants have a solid defense. So maybe they just end up just canceling each other out, and it's a boring game.
Yeah, it's really hard to predict what Washington is going to do week to week. Sam Howell has been such a great surprise, and I'm glad I have him in a couple leagues. I mean, he's just sitting on my bench in one of them, and I'm like, man, should I start him over Burrow this week? I don't know. I'm not going to, but like I'm thinking about it. And then,
Why not?
I mean, I think there's a little. Well, I don't know. And I'll continue that thought later. But Sam Howell has been a very pleasant surprise, and he's got a lot of weapons to throw to. But the other side of the ball, who are you going to play besides Saquon? And if the defenses are just going to aim at shutting him down, they don't really have to worry about anything else. So this could be a very lopsided game where Washington just runs away with it, but that's still going to be low scoring. And I'm not sure who you'd start on Washington with confidence because they're
Brian
so
Robinson.
inconsistent. Yeah, they're just so inconsistent, though. I'm saying you start Sam Howell, and I would start Brian Robinson because they're going to probably control the flow of the game. But it's tough to start Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson with confidence because, you've also got Logan Thomas stealing some touches. You've got Curtis Samuel. Yeah. Like
De'Ami Brown even gets a touchdown here and there. There's a bunch of scavengers on that offense.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of the same situation Mahomes has in Kansas City, where outside of Travis Kelce, it's just like a toss up. I think Rashee Rice is establishing more of a role over there, but still, it's kind of the same thing with Washington. You just don't know who's going to get the ball. So who are you going to play aside from Sam Howell? You're right. Probably just Brian Robinson because they're going to control the flow of the game. And on the other side, nobody except Saquon. And that's going to be for the rest of the season. And it's going to be tough for Saquon to produce high volume and, or he'll probably get the volume. It's going to be tough for him to get high ceiling. He's going to probably just have a stable floor.
Yeah. So you could probably sell high on his name alone,
I would do that sooner than later.
You smell that, Joe?
Oh,
That's this week's mud pie.
Mm-hmm.
This week's shit call of the week. Who do you got for your what'd you mess up last week? What kind of bad advice did you give out?
I referenced it a couple of times, but I said to stay away from the Browns-Ravens game because I expected it to be a low-scoring defensive battle, a divisional game, and a really hard-fought grind, and it ended with 64 total points. But again, a lot of that was due to the defense on both sides of the ball. You got the Browns had 2 turnovers and 1 touchdown. The Browns defense had 2 turnovers and 1 touchdown, and the Ravens defense had 2 turnovers and 1 touchdown. So it was a defensive battle to a degree. But again, it was 64 total points. I expected it to be like 40. And what's weird though is the only guys I expected to really play well are the same guys I mentioned for my hot matchup this week, who I said have to bounce back. Lamar finished with somewhere like around 13 fantasy points, and Mark Andrews had like 6. So it was a great game, but nothing like I expected. Lamar did not play very well, and Mark Andrews didn't play very well. This week I expected to be much different from them, but last week I said that game's going to be a low-scoring defensive battle, and it was a high-scoring game that surprised quite a lot of people, especially on the Browns side of the football. The offense was very surprising. And Deshaun Watson playing through that injury, that's crazy to know that he had an ankle injury and a shoulder injury, and he was grinding through it. And now he's on IR. So he was hurt that whole game. Makes it even more impressive.
And it could have been that he aggravated it worse.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. He had
smaller injury. Yeah, taking some licks because I know he took some hard hits from the Ravens side. They don't, number one number one sack team in the league. We were talking about that as well. So they really put the hits on him. But yeah, it's crazy that they scored that much. I was surprised myself.
And what's your shit call of the week?
Obviously we talk about different things here and there, and it's hard for me to come up with bad calls because we've been pretty accurate. If anybody goes back and watches our videos, we already got it's been 10 weeks in a season, but we got this is what our 12th episode here for Fantasy
11th,
Fumble here.
12th, yeah, I think it's our 11th episode.
Something like that.
Maybe it's our 12th. Shit,
11th.
I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think it's 12.
Okay.
But we started a couple weeks before kickoff. That's why.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So yeah,
week 11, that makes sense.
We've been pretty good about our predictions. We've been probably 80% accurate. We haven't always been right. I even had some. So somebody posted on a comment the other day that I missed on our social media on the TikTok saying, "Hey, who would you rather start, Deontay Johnson?" Or it was a player I did a profile on. I think it was Michael Pittman or something. And it was the week that Pittman had it was the week that Deontay Johnson came back, and whatever the player I did the profile on had a bad week. And I was like, well, I'm glad that I missed his comment because I would have gave you the advice for the other player and you would have ended up missing your matchup. He's like, yeah, well, I'm a Steelers fan. I ended up going with Deontay Johnson. Okay. And he ended up getting the right call. I was like, well, I'm glad because I gave you the wrong advice. And I was honest about it. I was like, hey, I would have gave you the wrong advice, so I'm glad I missed it. So,
fantasy football, it's going to happen.
Normal. Yeah, but I'm glad the guy didn't listen to my advice. But this week's, I guess my cold call would be I called last week. I called the Falcons versus Cardinal game to be the low scoring game of the week. It wasn't. There was a couple other games that were worse than that. And actually, Kyler Murray looked great. I mean, he came back. He looked like he didn't tear his ACL 11 months ago.
Yeah, he did look great.
He rushed for a touchdown. He got out of a few potential sacks. He looked really like Kyler Murray-esque. So, they look great. Falcons finally fed Bijan Robinson. I guess the owner probably got on the phone and told Arthur Smith, we drafted him 8th overall. If you don't run the ball, I'm firing your ass right now. So he ended up getting in the end zone, so he had a good game, and I think is he playing this game? Or they're on they're on a bye week.
They're on a bye this week.
Week.
Yeah.
They're on a bye. So, I mean, but they ended up having a pretty solid game. Obviously, 23-25 is not high scoring, but it's more than I expected, right? Especially from the Cardinals side. I didn't expect them to be that good with first game back. So that's my shit call of the week.
Yeah, and I'd say that's more of like a skid mark than a straight up shit call, because it wasn't high scoring, but it's not low scoring.
It's a washable skid mark. Like I can get it off my underwear skid mark.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
It's a quick double wash. Clear that right up. Fucking children over here.
It's not for kids, by the way. It's for grown folks.
Yeah, we just behave like kids, but the show is not for kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not that bad. And they did play, Kyler played better than I expected to. I actually have him in a league. I benched him. I'm probably not even going to play him this week, but Hollywood Brown didn't have a great game at all. His last couple weeks have been a little rough for him. I still like him the rest of the season now that Kyler's back. But Trey McBride, shit, he came to play. He had over 100 yards. I think they said that was the first time in like
A rookie tight end with like that many like receiving yards
no
or something like
any
that.
Cardinals tight end. It was like the first time in like
Oh yeah,
25 or 30 years that a Cardinals tight end had over 100 yards, and he had 133. So he
that's because all
crushed
they
that
ever
record.
draft is blocking tight ends. They never drafted a good one
But it
ever in their whole
hurts.
franchise history. No, they didn't draft the Ertz though. You know,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
traded for
yeah.
Ertz last, from the Eagles. But
Yeah,
but but yeah, that's true. And
yeah.
actually, Marquise Brown, I was watching him closely because I started him. He only had 3 points, but he dropped a 30-yard touchdown. Like Kyler Murray overthrew him on a wide
They'll
open touchdown in the
see,
end
they'll tighten
zone.
that up. Like they're
Yeah,
both going to be in sync the
on
rest
the
of the
same page.
season. And then, James Conner, it was good to see him back. He looked pretty good, and I expect them all to be better moving forward.
Ooh, Michael Carter just got claimed off of waivers by Arizona, and they don't
I
have a
saw that.
pass catching back.
I
So I
saw
think
that.
DeMarcado, I think they like him as an all-purpose back, so he's going to stay there in the event that James Conner gets injured. He fills that role because he was the workhorse back for a while. So what they do is they get Michael Carter's a third down back, and then Michael Carter might end up down the line, maybe getting a couple sneaky good games in there, but not
It,
anything consistent.
it seemed like they were almost trying to do that with Rondale Moore. They were giving him like weird little running back
Packages.
involvement here and there, and
Mhm.
maybe it just didn't work out. But I mean, he's a freak, Rondale Moore. He's got freak speed. He's a great athlete, but for some reason it
He's
just
small.
yeah, he's a small guy, definitely.
Yeah.
Let him hang, let him drop. It's time for the big balls call of the week. And I alluded to this earlier. I believe that Rashee Rice is going to have a very productive game. You've got the perfect setting. It's just he's been getting more involved. He's been involved since day one, but he's been getting more involved as the season goes on. He's got a good rapport with Patrick Mahomes. And I just feel like with no one else really interfering with his volume, aside from the obvious Travis Kelce, he's going to get enough volume in a very high scoring game. You've got the Super Bowl matchup where I know he didn't take part in it, but still, you got Monday Night Football with these two high powered offenses. I just feel like the setting is perfect for him to get his first 100-yard game and score a touchdown.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking about that. That made me think because I was like, we got to have like a streak meter for our big balls call every time we call that right.
Well, your balls are
Because
fucking
man,
like Randy Marsh in South Park right now because you have just been
wheelbarrow 'em,
nailing them. You need a wheelbarrow for your balls. We got to fucking get you a wheelbarrow.
bro. Bro, last week was amazing. I said, hey, I said Jameer Gibbs and Dave Montgomery each were gonna have 100 yards and a touchdown, and I was right. And actually, Jameer had 2 touchdowns, and he had like 117 all-purpose yards. But man, obviously, like people say, it's all about luck, right? Because Montgomery had that 50-yard rush, but it's no different than him getting 20 touches on the 5-yard line. Like at the end of the day, it's football's a game of numbers, and there's going to be opportunities. There's a role, and there's going to be opportunities in that game. So that's just you got to hope that it rolls that way
And
sometimes. So
and dude, just to piggyback on what you just said, that's so true. Like a lot of the time when people are like, "Yeah, but he had that one run for 50 yards." Well, if he didn't have that one run for 50, he might have had 6 or 8 for 50. You know what I mean? It's just like if that drive was longer, he probably would have gotten those yards. It just would have taken more attempts. So
mhm.
that's a thing that if they're on a drive and it gets cut short by a huge run or a huge pass, then it is what it is. He's still getting those yards.
Yeah, you ride that hot hand, baby. That's what you do,
And
especially with running backs.
which I don't know what to say about the Detroit Lions backfield, but I'm pretty sure those guys are going to be on a high-powered committee where you can start them both.
Yeah, and I talked about it. Remember, 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago, I said, "Hey, Detroit Lions are going to be the number one rush offense in the
Yep.
league as long as that O line's healthy. They're going to run. They're going to give both those guys 20 touches a game, 20 plus touches a game each, and whether that be receptions and carries, it doesn't matter. They're both going to eat." And they proved me right the first game back, and it's just going to continue to be that way. You know, the games that they're leading, they're just going to run it down people's throats. But it's going to be a fun team to watch. I'm so happy that we were bullish on Detroit before the season started.
Oh,
More than
yeah.
probably most of those guys, fantasy guys out there, and we were really right. So obviously now everyone knows Detroit's a force, and you better watch out if you don't have them on your team. If you're going up against them, good luck.
Yeah, good
Because it's
luck.
going to be high scoring.
And expect Laporta to
But
bounce back too, and expect, Amon-Ra to just continue eating every single week. And those guys, they're not going to be disrupted by the run game. It's just all working very well together.
oh yeah, definitely. Old school football, and they're running it to perfection. But going into my big balls call, my big balls call is going to be Mr. Josh Allen has his revenge game against the same New York Jets that embarrassed him early on in the season. I know everybody remembers that Robert Saleh was talking about, oh, we had a gauntlet of quarterbacks we embarrassed. He's talking about, Buffalo Bills, Chiefs, and the Eagles, how they just destroyed them. So Buffalo just lost their 5th game of the season, a heartbreaker to the freaking Broncos. So Josh Allen had a terrible game, a lot of turnovers. There's a lot of question marks. And now we were talking about it like, Trev, you have the potential of pissing off Stephon Diggs. This happened early on in the season when they had a bad game. And what happened the next game, I think he threw 3 touchdowns to Stephon Diggs. So you're going to see a big game from him, but don't let that change your mind and accept that trade, all right? I still like the upside of Jahmyr Gibbs.
We're talking the rest of the season. Hey, this is different.
Yeah, rest of the season.
You got to keep in mind that, we were also just talking about A.J. Brown being a complete monster too. I'm not going to just forget that. And Gibbs.
I'll take that 38 game. Yeah, I'll take that consistent. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, you need that emotional connection. A.J. Brown is just guaranteed he's going to eat. But 300 all-purpose yards, whether that be rush and passing, he's going to come back and he's going to have 3 total touchdowns against the New York Jets. And get this, 1 turnover. That's a big balls call. The guy leading the league in turnovers is only going to have 1 turnover. So you want some freaking big balls?
He's still the number 1 in fantasy. He's still the number 1 fantasy quarterback.
He is. He's also number 1 in turnovers. So, that's saying for a lot.
So 300, 3 touchdowns, and 1 turnover.
I like going big, man. I like to I don't like to gamble, but I like to make bold predictions, and they seem to be pretty awesome. But
hell yeah. I notice you always ask that, the group text are on. You're like, what are your big predictions this year? What are your big calls this week? You're just putting your feelers out there, seeing what people say. I like that. Get us talking.
Yeah. And that some people interact, some don't. That's why it's good for the podcast, right? Because I think it gets people talking, and it gets people's opinions. You know how we asked people's opinion on that trade, right, from earlier that you had. You're going to have people that feel one way, people that feel another.
That's going to probably be – if you ask that question, if you threw that out there on social media, you're going to get, almost probably close to a 50-50 split. It's hard. It's a really hard thing to call right now.
Yeah, but you don't listen to those assholes on the other side. You listen to us. So follow our channel. All right.
We're going to steer you in the right direction. We've been on fucking point. Don't mind telling you.
Please subscribe. Please be my friend.
Share with everyone please.
Tell your friends, tell your moms, tell your grandmas, and if they don't know how, download the app on their phone for them, please.
Yes, please share it, mister, please.
All right, big ballers. We appreciate you coming back again for another episode of Fantasy Football Sports Minds. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here. Joe, you got anything to add for us over here?
We just appreciate all the support for real. I know we were just goofing around about it, but we really do appreciate all the support. We put a lot of time into this research just because we love fantasy football, but we do love sharing it with you guys. And as I say every week, if there's a specific player that you'd like us to talk about and cover for a player profile, our 1 minute player profiles, keep you up to date on some of the guys that are lesser known and some of the studs that you might be asking questions about. We cover it all. So if there's a specific player you want us to cover, please let us know.
Unless he sucks, then keep it to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if he's just some guy that's sitting at the bottom of the waivers every week and you liked him in college, keep that shit to yourself.
I mean, how about you make a player profile, send it to us so we can watch it?
Yeah, please.
No, I'm just kidding. Nah, thank you so much, guys. We're joking around. We appreciate you guys and the love and support. Please hit the follow button, subscribe. Like I said, send it to all your friends. And then if you don't, believe us, you could go back. Everything is time stamped. So you go back for every week before the kickoffs and see how we talk.
Check the upload date and then look at the game. Look at the numbers, So
yeah, I mean, that's there, but otherwise, just follow us, guys. We're gonna keep this going. This is gonna be our thing. This is obviously our first year, our inaugural year, and we're gonna keep it going through the off season. So we appreciate all the support, and then the show's only gonna get bigger and better. So you guys just keep that going for us. So we appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your night, guys. We love you. Take care, all right, guys.